All right, hello and welcome to my Market Open live stream. I'm Market Monk Picks on Twitter. Also, uh, Professor. Some people call me that. So what I wanted to do today is just kind of go through some of my plans for the day, my watch list, and some of the levels that I'm looking at on some particular stocks. It was a pretty interesting overnight session, and we can see if we go to futures and take a look at what happened here. I tend to focus on Nasdaq more than ES1, but they're very similar charts. Okay, so let's take a look at like the 30-minute chart and what happened here. So it at open spiked pretty nicely, and then kind of went down from there. It went down mostly on some bad news out of China regarding retail sales, jobs, etc. You'll probably see headlines about that all day. The If you're on Twitter, anyone who's kind of like those perma bear accounts, they will keep you very updated on anything, any negative catalyst that's bad. It doesn't mean that they're always wrong. I'm not saying that. To be bearish has actually been the smarter move in a lot of ways lately. But they really kind of gravitate towards that kind of information. And we can see that futures have recovered quite a bit here. And as we look into the pre-market levels here on the indices, we can see that QQQ is about to go green. Get to a smaller chart here, and SPY as well. So they could flush it open for sure. It's you never really know. Those first 15 to 45 minutes of the market are really volatile. So you want to kind of be aware of that. All right. Now, what I had for my list today, let me kind of take you through that. So I'm going to take you through my list and then my notes. So this is my options watch list, and what I have up first here is DDOG. For DDOG, I have a call trigger of 111.94 and a put trigger of 105.54. So let's take a couple minutes to maybe talk about exactly where where some of those levels are coming from, and then we can take a look there. I was getting some kind of audio feedback. I think it was from my live stream being open on Twitter, and it was myself. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about how I actually calculate this. I've gone over this a couple times with members of our Discord room, but I wanted to talk about it with you as well, just so everyone can see it. So I have DDOG here on my tech watch list. Obviously, it had this huge day on Friday, like many things did. Okay, so to calculate a trigger, I take what's called the average true range, which is this box right here. So this is RSI, this is average true range, and this is MACD, which I'll talk about some other time. But okay, so average true range, it is a plugin in TradingView that I use, and it's free, and you could just pop it in there. It's just called average true range, and I go to the day chart and I take this number at close. I don't really worry about pre-market for this, but I take the number at close, 12.23. Okay, so I take 12.23 and I divide it by 4. 305. All right, so this is the number I'm going to add to and subtract from the closing price to get my initial call trigger, my draft of my call trigger, input trigger. Okay, so then I take 305 and I'm going to add it to 108.86 equals 111.91. Okay, so 111.91. I go to the hour chart and I say, if I look at 111.91, is that a level that that seems to have some significance? Now, I could imagine that that $112 might be a level that has some weight to it, and that's kind of close to that. But okay, so as I go up here, what happens around that level? And I go in and kind of look back at some of these candles. I can see, moments where it kind of dips around this area, and right there, go to the 15-minute chart, try to get a sense of where that might stand. So 111.91. Oops. And it does seem to be, if you look further back, it's a point of decision for the stock where it was kind of bouncing on that level around here. And again, it's approximate. You're not going to really get it to the penny. I mean, sometimes it gets really close, but so again, so this is a spot in a day trade where if it does manage to break through and confirm that I would have some confidence entering calls. I'm basically trying to get out of a sort of range bound situation where it just moves up and down like a 1% or 1.5%, where it's going to give me something more definitive that I can enter and make a good trade on. So it's this kind of trading, it's a little bit, when I first started doing it, it's a little bit counterintuitive because I'm like, well, don't I want to enter calls when the stock is down? And you do, depending on the kind of trade that it is. If I'm bullish on a stock, like X is a good example of this, or Oxy, where I know going in that the stock is likely to have a pretty good day based on the option flow from the days before, the days before, overall market conditions, etc. So you'll see some profit taking it open, and it'll drop, and then I'll look for a reversal, and that is a way to trade too. It's you just kind of have to know going into it what you're doing, and you have to have a plan. So in this particular scenario, these call triggers are actually looking for the stock to go up and break through. And the thinking is that particular level, once it confirms that, other buyers step in, and it's likely to go higher. And you want to always enter these kind of situations with an awareness of what the overall market is doing. I would never be trading calls on DDOG kind of against the momentum of the whole market. So if the market's selling off in SPY and QQQ, I'm not really going to try to enter calls there because I don't think that any kind of upward movement there is going to last. It's not really that kind of stock. There are small caps that run counter to the market all the time, and just sort of seem to ignore kind of market conditions. If you're in a sector like airlines are a good example from a few weeks ago, where airlines were running almost every day while the market was selling off, and you do get situations like that. But in general, with a tech stock, I want to trade with the momentum of the market, and I want to trade with some conviction about where the stock's going to go, and those triggers kind of help me with that. Okay, so another one. We'll take a look real quickly at Devon. I am interested in oil today, and then I'm going to take you through some unusual whales stuff I've been looking at. Okay, so Devon. So I have this one marked here. Let me see. Yeah. So I have this one. I have the range already kind of marked out here with these dashed lines, and you can see that it's kind of trying to approach the call trigger, and this one actually ended up the trigger math came out fairly neatly to the range it showed us on Friday. So if we go back to Friday and we can see where these lines were. So this is where at the 69.19, this is where it rejected, and then here at 67.59, that's where it bounced. And in general, for me, I don't know why this is. Maybe it's because it's a sector that where I first really kind of learned how to do this. But a lot of my lines in oil stocks tend to be pretty good, and I trade off of them a lot. And I trade Oxy a lot, Devon. Those are kind of my two favorites. But some of the smaller caps I look at. I trade Dino a lot. I trade SD, and usually I'm in swings on those with their just the way their options move. Devon and Oxy are really good for day trade. So, but again, this is another example of those levels I was talking about. So, I mean, you can trade this zone. You can just trade the bounces here, and a call trigger very easily could turn into a put trigger. If intraday I saw a candle, get a kind of a firm rejection of the call trigger, like it didn't even push through it, and then I see it, start to fade, I might watch this, and if on this next attempt, because this is kind of what often happens, like it'll dip and try to come back, especially if a stock is bullish. But as it fails, maybe I would enter puts, or vice versa. It doesn't really want to push through this put trigger. So I'm going to try to play the bounce on it, and that's kind of more of a scalp trade instead of a real sustained day trade. But profitable either way. If you were playing like on Friday, this time of day, you wouldn't be playing 0 DTE. But if you were playing the next week's options, from a move from 69, or well, you probably wouldn't enter up here, but a move from like around 69 to 68, that's a good profit in options. It kind of depends on the Greeks on it, but I would imagine you could get 15-20% off of that fairly quickly. So if you have some levels in mind going in, it can kind of give you an edge. It's not definitive. It's not a magic formula, but it's preparation, and it helps improve your odds. So that's what I do for call and put triggers. And I do have these watch lists. I put these out on Twitter. Usually 4 stocks. There's usually a tech stock, and often I'll have basic materials as well, and then energy, and then often one other one. A lot of large caps. I do look at smaller caps too. So kind of go from there. Okay, so what was in my sector notes for last night? So for basic materials, I said that the sector's showing some signs of life. LAC and AA stand out as bullish, with June out of the money contracts seeing heavy volume. And I do like AA this week. And now, just bear in mind, they did have their dividend day today. And this is always an unpredictable event. Sometimes the stock on a dividend day will sell off pretty dramatically, as it'll often bounce after that. But one thing, the flow going into it is often misleading, because you'll see heavy bullish flow, but they're in the money calls, because what the whales are doing is they're exercising those calls to get the to capture the dividend, and then they'll sometimes sell out of it. Now AA is very much oversold, so and it's up right now, so that might hold, and they might just go ahead and keep this. Weekly charts, where we have a sell signal here for the first time in a really long time. So so people watching that on the day chart, you can see it's very much very much oversold. So I would expect to bounce. There's some pretty big gaps to fill up here into the mid 60s. Definitely feasible that could happen. And another aluminum stock I like, that I mentioned in my notes, is CenX. And not seeing a lot of pre-market movement there, but you can see the sell-off here was even more steep, and basic materials has just been getting smacked for a while. So I'm looking for those conditions to improve, and I put that in my notes. I did mention gold and silver as well, and those are stocks that I've been out of for a bit, but had some really good trades on that. For options, I like gold, SBSW, and for shares, I like AUI. I'm very much wait and see on gold right now, especially if the market goes risk on, and tech is really hot. I have some hesitancy about gold. If AUI were to dip into the kind of the 450 range, I would probably really start considering scaling in and loading up on that, because that will reverse and recover. And I don't think we're going to break back down into this old channel here. I think the old resistance will probably act as support. Inflation isn't getting better quickly. Gold stocks and gold are a good inflation hedge, so there's some possibilities there. Silver, the sell-off in silver has been even more steep than gold, and AG is one that I trade a lot on that, and you can see here that it is way down, and we're looking at kind of 2020 levels here. So silver RSI just completely crushed. Silver is a category of stock, and it did have a little rally Friday with most things, but that's one that I would kind of consider scaling in long term, looking for a move at least back to 10 to 12. So I look at the flow on that every day. Don't necessarily plan on entering that today. I think there's a lot of other opportunities. Okay, so let me, I won't go through every single one of these, but yeah, so I do want to talk about industrials for a minute, and some space stocks that I find kind of interesting. So when tech is moving, a lot of these space stocks do tend to do pretty well, and Virgin Galactic, you may have been trading it way back here when it ran all the way up to 50, which was just a crazy run it went on. It did it a few times, and then it's just completely in no man's land now. But I do like it. I like the options on it, the way that the spread on them, the way they move, etc. So if the market is favorable this week, I'm pretty optimistic on that. Some others, ASTR, Astrospace is one that you might look at as well. And you'll see all their charts are very similar. They took a beating with most of the market last time. Vorb is one that makes some pretty dramatic moves. So you might look at that. It did sell off this morning, it looks like. And we'll see if there was any. Now there's no real volume pushing that. So that might just bounce right back. We'll see. But I do like it under 5. So that is certainly possible. Okay, now let me get back into my notes here. All right, other industrials. I do want to look at Boeing for a minute. And Boeing, obviously one of those mega caps. Okay, so Boeing had this really dramatic drop on Friday, and it's a stock that responds to negative news pretty dramatically. But as I look at the day chart, and then when I was looking at the flow on it, let me go to my Intraday Analyst. All right, so overall the options are leaning, fairly bullish right now. Nothing too dramatic. Put to call ratio is actually bearish at 0.89. So what I'm looking for in Boeing, and I can go into the live flow and kind of check this out too. All right. So puts in the 120s. That's something that that I'm looking at, like particularly like the 124 level, and I'm just it seems kind of like it's teetering a bit to me, and it's struggled to really gain any kind of positive momentum, even when the market turns green. It's just kind of been fizzling out, and they've just been walking this down. So so Boeing does stand out as a potential short candidate for me if the market turns kind of bad. And if I go to live flow alerts, let me see here. So yeah, so we do have volume over open interest. These were the weekly puts, and this is where there's some limitations in looking at this data on Fridays, because you have so many 0 DTE contracts. In the live flow, you can actually get rid of those if you go to filters and go to DTE range, and were to say, like, I mean, you could put anything in here, like 3. It's going to get rid of those contracts. So if you want to cut some of the noise from weeklies and get a more longer term comprehensive picture, you can always adjust your filters to do that. Okay, so Boeing, if the market's positive today, it's probably going to go up, but I see some downside there. Potentially as low as 105 is kind of what I'm eyeing, but that's just an early idea, so I don't have a real definitive sense of that just yet. Okay, so some other stocks that are worth noting today. I thought Uber had a really bullish setup today, and we'll go to Uber Technologies, and Oh, looks like Devin crossed my trigger. So I'll keep an eye on a retest for that. All right, so Uber, you can see it's just been crushed. Or Uber and Lyft both took a nosedive off earnings. Uber's earnings were actually a little better though. So what what am I seeing and what am I looking for out of Uber? We'll go into technology and we'll go to, are they a large cap? Yeah. All right. So they're considered a large cap. Okay. So taking out the weekly here. So 520.25C, we can see that was a very bullish contract. And then we have 617, even more so, 1.1 million to 91,000. So that definitely is promising. If I go into live flow alerts on Uber, let's see what comes up here. Pretty lively on Friday, and very bullish on the contracts that showed up in these alerts, both the sold puts and the calls. A lot of the calls, some of the leaps, way out of the money. So so these whales buying these are certainly expecting for this stock to recover. There are some bearish bets too, but the thing about the puts is that the ask side puts, they're not really that far out of the money. So the percentages of the strikes are pushing it higher rather than further down. So I mean, how much more? I mean, you look at half the charts in the stock market, and it's like, how much lower could this go? And you can see how oversold it is. It can go lower. I mean, if the market feels like it, it'll send Uber to $20. But I think in terms of the option flow is indicating that whales don't really expect that. So so Uber is one that I certainly have some optimism on heading into the week. Palantir actually is another one that I would look closely at. And so Palantir, you've probably seen this chart, just a disaster. But I don't own it right now, so I'm happy to trade it down here for potentially a move to $10 maybe. The options on this list, we do have leaps out to January, and it's kind of interesting to me that someone would buy a leap on Palantir at over double its price on a day that the stock ran up 13%. It's like, why wouldn't you wait for a pullback or something? Well, maybe we're not going to get much of a pullback. I don't know. But they just wanted the contract, and so they jumped into it. So that's certainly promising. In terms of the live flow on it, some of the alerts are leaning kind of bearish, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the pullback on it. I don't like to buy a stock that went up 13% right away. I want to see it sort of settle and and see what we can find. So there's some attempts here. Well, this is actually from the 11th. So on the 13th, most of this. Oh, this is one buyer. Okay, so that I know it's one buyer because it's all at the same time. That kind of limits what you can really get out of this. So in this excuse me, in this case, I might go into the live flow and see what I can see there. I don't really like chasing a single buyer. It's just kind of my bias there. Okay, so A lot of the alerts are bearish on that. We can see here. I'm wondering, is this the same one I just saw? Because they might be getting out of this contract. So let's see here. 2.87, 3.16, 3.17. Yeah, 3.16. Okay. So they exited this position. That's what the line means. So that's kind of interesting. And then this is a single buyer, and it is a multi-leg option strategy where they are buying a call and selling a put at the same strike, same date. Let's see what the profit looks like on this. All right, so how do they profit on this? They profit on a significant move in either direction. So that, in looking at it, it's not entirely surprising, although they profit a little more and more quickly if it goes up. So it's a slightly bullish bet. It's a bet on volatility, largely. So that is some context for the flow alert page, where you see this and it's like, oh God, it's doomed. Palantir is going to fall. It's going to go to, it's going to go to $8, and then, who knows, go to $6. Look at all this. They're going to send it to $6. And you sort of get, you can get in this kind of frenzy about flow, where it's like, man, they're going to crush this thing. But and they might. But I think that when you go into some of the other tools and you start to get some context for these particular orders, and they're the really large ones are pretty easy to find, even if you don't adjust your filters very much, just because those large numbers really stand out. So that's good to know. I mean, the idea that this stock is going to have a lot of volatility, not entirely surprising, but great for a day trader, because that's really what you're after. And I don't have a particular preference on playing the upside or downside on many stocks. Some, if I'm really bullish, I'll want to kind of stick to calls. But okay, let me get my light really quickly. All right, so that will pretty much wrap up my my market live stream for today. I did post a few separate videos on YouTube this weekend. One of them, I talked about this the live flow alerts. So how I use this page and keep it open intraday, and then I talked about market caps as well, and how I adjust my approach to trading by kind of scrolling through various market caps, and how I approach that. So those are two videos I went over. I'm going to go over some other tools here, and I'll have some future videos on that, and just keep talking about how I incorporate some of those resources. So you can follow me on Twitter at Market Monk Picks. I have a link to a Discord. We still do have some spots left. We're going to limit it to 100. So it's just kind of a classroom. It's not just a alert space that we're just going to grow to this unlimited amount. We want to be able to give focused attention and instruction. So if you are interested in that, you can DM me or take a look at the Discord link in my bio. And everyone, I wish you a great trading day, a very profitable one. Don't enter today with a lot of assumptions. I don't know which way things are going to go, but just have some setups and levels in mind, have a plan, and work to execute that plan, and you'll be fine. Thank you.